Whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of night that hath no home, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a demon, or a ghoul, whatever thou be until thou art removed, thou shalt find here no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand to our own. Into our house enter thou not. Through our fence break through thou not. We are protected, though we may be frightened. Our life you may not steal, though we may be scared to death.
Welcome to Scared to Death, Creeps, Peepers, Roberts, and Annabelles. I'm Dan.
Hello, Dan. Guess who I am?
You're Lynze, and you're also Lulu Marie.
That's right. You're so smart.
You have a live show announcement for both of us, and then we're going to get into our stories.
I do. Well, gang, it is that time of the year. It is officially the start to spooky season. And what better way to treat yourself this Halloween season than by joining us, Dan and Lynze, this Thursday, not this Thursday, a Thursday this month.
A Thursday.
One of the Thursdays, October 23rd at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time for our 5th annual Haunted Halloween show. We'll be dressed up.
Yeah.
Not sure what we're going to wear yet, so if you've got ideas, send them our way. And you can get your tickets right now by going to moment.co/scared to death. And we can't wait to see you there. And of course, all of this will be in the episode description if you're looking for the link, or if you're just like, wait, what'd they say? You can just go to Moment and search for Scared to Death.
And we're going to be doing it from our studio again. I know there was a few little tech problems last year when we tried to do it in a new spot.
Whoopsies.
Yep, we're back in our home studio. Logan flying him back out. The gang's back together here. And I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to crafting a new Nightmare Fuel story for it. And it's going to be so much fun.
So you're going to do a Nightmare Fuel for that?
Yeah,
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We did that last year, and I'm excited to do it again.
That's
and
awesome.
Try and up it.
Up the ante. Yeah. I've already got my stories picked out, and I've just been reading them and practicing them, and I'm very excited for them.
And thanks for the feedback, by the way, everybody on the recent 3-episode arc of Samael on Nightmare Fuel. It means a lot to me. You guys take the time to leave some really nice words and good feedback, and And what stories will you be sharing with us from those sent in to mystory at scaredtodeathpodcast.com from our beautiful fans this week?
Oh, yes. We have the best fans.
Yeah.
And the two this week begin with taking us to the UK to hear a tale about a haunted house. And there's just something about the rhythm of this story that really appealed to me. I don't know, it just really lingered. And then, very unusual, but I have some photos that the person sent in, and they just take it to that next level.
Awesome.
So very excited for that. And then, while we will be making our way back to the U.S. for our second strange tale of a reoccurring vision, the theory our listener comes up with takes us back to another country. So we're kind of bebopping around.
Cool. Very cool. I will take us to China for our first story and back to the 17th century. And it is so weird. And you kind of talked about the rhythm. The rhythm of this story is just deliciously creepy.
Okay.
And then my second story will take us back only about a decade to England, where we will explore another story involving a supposedly haunted doll, a doll with no name listed in any of the many sources about this doll. And there is a video attached to this. I'm not going to show it because we don't do video on the episodes, here anymore. But I'll show like a series of pictures that show the movement.
Okay.
That I'll be referring to that's pretty creepy. And if you want to watch the video, you can easily find it on YouTube. And it's not some of course, these things like some huge thing where the doll jumps out of this case, but you will see movement that I think is hard to explain.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that's my opinion is that smaller, more subtle movements in these scenarios is much creepier than a giant. Because I think when it's like a big movement, you're like, oh, it just fell over.
Or if it's a big movement, people now could be like, oh, that's AI.
Totally. Or it was staged.
Yes, exactly.
I think, anyways.
Yeah. What spoopy socks are you rocking this week?
Well, I have these lovely sugar skulls.
Yeah.
And I think they're just perfect for this episode that, it comes out on the night of September 30th for our standard listeners.
Yeah.
But October 1st, and that's the beginning of Halloween season. So it feels especially perfect.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we go. There exists in remote corners of Chinese folklore nameless spirits who seek not to consume the souls of their victims, but to transform them. The story you're about to hear is about one such obscure entity, The events of the story reportedly took place during the early decades of the Qing dynasty, so 1640s, maybe 1650s, in a small village by the name of Chong'an, deep in the heart of the North China Plains. Unlike so many other legends of the paranormal, this story was put to paper shortly after its events unfolded, and it is unlike, as you will see, anything we have ever shared here before. Time now for the tale of the Eye Dwellers. The man's name was Fong Tung, and he had a taste for the depraved. He was corrupt, to be certain, and the entire village of Chong'an knew it. He walked about the streets as if he owned them, and whenever he caught a glimpse of a beautiful girl, he acted as if he owned her as well. When he saw a woman who excited him, he would trail her and speak to her, and even touch her if he could. Women averted their eyes from his lecherous gaze. Parents shielded their daughters from getting caught in his stare. He was hated, reviled, despised, but he had money, lots of it, and all the power that it brought. He had more money and more power than anyone else in his village, so no one ever said anything. That was until someone or something was finally brave enough to speak up. It was the 14th day after the spring equinox, and the following day all of the living members of the village and all the living members of every other village in all of China, they would be trekking to the tombs of their dead for the Qingming festival. While his wife was at home preparing food and other offerings for her husband's dead ancestors, Feng Tung was out prowling the village countryside, looking for women and girls, most likely, when suddenly out of nowhere, a large moving figure appeared on the horizon, heading towards him like a beast tumbling languidly over the hills. At first it was too far out for him to be able to identify its shape. But as it crept closer, he began to see what it was, a small carriage, with red curtains and embroidered blinds, undoubtedly harboring some wealthy person inside, he reasoned, followed by a procession of female servants on horseback. When the carriage finally passed by him, Feng caught a flash of its passenger inside. It was a girl no more than 16 years old, wrapped in expensive cloth, and Feng thought she was exceptionally beautiful. In the short glimpse he caught of this teenager, Feng saw that his presence had shocked, maybe even frightened her. Not wanting that to be the only impression he made on her, and lusting after her and not wanting the brief encounter to end, Feng Tung smiled and broke into a run, chasing after the carriage. He quickly caught up with her, as the horses were going at a leisurely pace, and brought himself right next to the girl's open window. He then walked stiffly and quickly beside the carriage, keeping his pace with the horses, and his beady, hungry eyes focused aggressively on her. Never once did he look before him, never once did he glance ahead. He kept his face turned towards the window beside him, so it was parallel with hers, and he stared, and he stared. His face was blank, his lips parted slightly, his breath heavy. And his stare, his awful lustful stare, how it made the girl squirm. The whites of his eyes glistened as if they'd been licked clean. His pupils were like worms, burrowing into her, wriggling over her. She could feel it. For what felt like hours, though it was probably only seconds, it was all she could feel. She couldn't move, there was nowhere to go, she couldn't speak, for she was too frightened. But then in an instant, the man disappeared from her view, and she heard a loud and quite satisfying thud. One of the young girl's servants had grabbed Fong Tung and flung him violently down into the dirt. As he laid there on the ground, horse hooves stomping past his head, the carriage lurching down the uneven terrain, he felt his blood begin to boil with anger and contempt. He pulled himself to his feet and met the eyes of the servant girl who had dared to seize and push him down. She dismounted her horse and was standing upright in front of him. Seeing she was beautiful as well, and very young like the girl in the coach, Fong grinned his sickening grin and stepped towards her. The servant girl, to his surprise, did not back away in fear, and this only angered him more. He was about to speak some vile abuse when the servant girl proclaimed in a clear and strong voice, "My lady is the bride of the 7th prince in the city of immortals. You are nothing." Enraged beyond words now, Fong Tung raised his fist to strike the insolent servant girl. But before he could land the blow, the girl swiftly took a handful of dirt from the road and cast it up into his face. The spray of gravel and dust struck his wide-open, gawking eyes like a whip, and in an instant he felt agony flare up inside his skull. He He blinked hard, but each movement only dragged the grit back and forth across the soft jelly of his eyes, as if millions of tiny, sharp splinters had been jammed under the lids. Tears welled instantly, hot and useless, turning the grit into a sludge that burned even worse, like rubbing salt into a cut. He screamed and lunged blindly at the spot in front of him, where the servant woman was standing. But now there was nothing but empty space. Squinting in pain, he surveyed what little of his surroundings he could make out through the tears and the sludge of dirt and sand and dust. The servant woman was gone. Her horse was gone. The carriage was gone. They'd all simply vanished. Fong Tung screamed in frustration and pain, and he fell to the ground, letting his tears of anger wash away the servant woman's still stinging insult. Eventually, the searing pain began to subside, but his vision did not clear. It remained obscured, blurry, and gray. In this state, he walked miserably home, hoping that by the next morning his eyes would be healed and he would be able to see clearly once again. But when the next morning came, his vision was even worse, and the pain, or a new sort of pain like it, had returned. Concerned and scared, Fong Tung's wife called the doctor and begged him to examine her injured husband. The doctor obliged, and a few minutes later he was sitting across from Fong Tung, lifting up his eyelids to examine the mystery affliction beneath. The doctor leaned in, expecting to find scratches or the pus of an infection, but what stared back at him was unlike anything he had ever seen before. A thick, oily film clung to Fong Tung's eyeballs, like a layer of molten wax left to congeal, heavy enough that the bottom lids sagged beneath its weight. It wasn't the pearly glaze of cataracts or the jaundiced yellow of sickness. The mysterious film was iridescent, catching the sunlight like the surface of a puddle. Hints of violet and sickly green and even bright red shimmered just beneath the surface, like the sheen on a rotting fish's scales, shifting as if alive. It looked slick, yet sticky, like it might tear some of the surface of Fong Tung's eyes if prodded. Disgusted, the doctor released Fong Tung's eyelids and jumped back. Fong Tung stared at the doctor without seeing him. The wretched man was not completely blind, not yet. He could still see vague shapes through the oppressive fog of the film, but to do so made his head ache and his stomach churn. Recovering himself, the doctor leaned back in to take another look at the wretched man's eyes. Fong Tung blinked at him, slowly, laboriously, his lashes leaving tiny drag marks in the iridescent film. And for one horrible moment, the doctor swore the film writhed, as if something beneath it was breathing. He knew in that moment that no disease could produce this. The texture was too unnatural. This was no physical affliction. It was a spiritual one. But how could he say that to Fong Tung and his wife? He couldn't, so he left, hurriedly offering the couple some advice on herbal remedies for the occasional malady as he ran out the door. Over the next couple of days, Fong Tung's condition grew worse. He could not see, he would not move, and he hardly ever spoke except to yell at his wife, who was doing all she could to make him more comfortable, taking care of his every need. But it wasn't helping. One morning, while Fong Tung was lying flat on his bamboo bed, his blind eyes wide open as if staring at the ceiling, his mouth downturned into a perpetual frown, his wife noticed something new in his left eye. At first, she thought it was a trick of the light, some odd reflection caught in the unnatural shimmer of the film. She crouched over him to get a better look and gasped. Something was now growing out from his eye. The glossy layer over his eyeball had split just slightly to let through a dark, jagged protrusion that coiled upward like a burnt vine, forcing its way through cracked glass. It wasn't smooth like a tumor or rigid like a bone. It was gnarled, branching, and ugly. The film around his eye had thickened, gathering in folds at the base of the thing as though feeding it or cradling it. It clung to the stalk of the growth like amber sealing a fossil, glinting with strange colors, greens, violets, or sickly gold, that shifted and swirled. She realized with horror that the protrusion was moving, so slow that it was almost imperceptible, but it certainly was. It was coiling upwards out of the coated iris like a plant to sunlight. The sight was so nauseating, she had to cover her mouth to stifle a scream. In that moment, she realized something even more horrible. Her husband was smiling, a very large smile that sprawled tightly across his face. He looked as if he had gone mad. Frightened, she stumbled backwards away from the bed, and Fong Tung, still lying on his back, his diseased, bubbling eyes gaping wide as if staring at the ceiling, slowly began to rotate his head to face her. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but only incomprehensible whispers came out, and his wife, his loving, caring wife, fled in terror. She would return a few hours later to find her husband pacing in the garden now, still mumbling to himself angrily, as if he was having an argument. Before she could say anything to greet him, he exclaimed, "Well, get out then! Get out, get out, get out, get out!" while he pressed the palms of his hands deep into his open eyes. Suddenly he whipped around to face her. Though he was completely blind, she still cowered under his hateful glare and braced for him to hurt her. "They tell me you've let my orchids die. How could you? How could you?" Fong Tung seethed. His wife remained silent. What was he talking about? She took a few trembling steps to examine the back corner of the garden, and sure enough, the orchids he had planted a year before were all dead. How could he have possibly known that? When she turned away from the withered flowers, she now found herself face to face with her husband, or rather, with what he had mutated into. The vile, spiral growth in his left eye, no taller than an inch, no wider than a few centimeters, glinted in the sunlight. The rancid, sparkling film shimmered with 1,000 colors, all of them equally sickening. His smile, broad and perverse. And suddenly, she had a realization. She had seen him smile like this before, when he had come across young girls he fancied in the village. "Here they come," he now whispered. Before she could ask who they were, Fong Tung let out an awful, ear-piercing scream of pain, of sheer unadulterated agony like nothing she'd ever heard before. His face, however, remained utterly unchanged. It showed no sign of anguish. And then, "Here they come!" Fong Tung screamed again, louder this time, as the film that had consumed his right eye suddenly split in two, shattering like the earth, the small canyon getting wider and wider and wider, as if something was excavating through it, scratching it away from within his eyeball. Fong Tung's wife felt she might vomit as two somethings, each no larger than a fingernail, slithered out of the opening in his eye. They each looked like they could be a tiny little person. And they crawled down his right cheek, then darted inside his open mouth, across his tongue and down his throat. The moment the small slimy creature disappeared inside him, Fong Tung clamped his mouth shut and grinned. "Don't worry, they're just getting comfortable," he said and walked away. Over the next several days, she kept seeing whatever these things were crawling out of her strange husband's eyes. And then finally, instead of re-entering his body, they climbed down to the floor one day and left their house. Fong Tung fell ill after this. He became feverish and lost consciousness. But then while his right eye remained just as malformed with that shimmering thick film and the twisted strange horn, Fong Tung's left eye returned to normal. Almost normal. The strange thing was, now, in his left eye, Fong Tung had 2 pupils. And when he woke up, he was changed again. He was no longer cold and cruel, no longer lecherous and unfaithful. And he lived out the rest of his days as a virtuous man.
The hell?
Isn't that story? Like, I read it several times. I was just like, what the fuck?
I am so confused.
It's like fable, horror, folklore, supposed, some truth to this, all wrapped up into the same legend. And I just really wanted to share it here. It's a very unusual story, but it's like, it's just so wild.
Why did you put me through that?
I know, and just the eyeball, just like a story so focused on eyes, where it's like, this spirit, this entity, one of several entities traveling to some immortal place, or these, Well,
okay, that's what I wanted to ask you. So, do you think that the caravan of women was real, or was it imagined?
I think, according to this story, and like this, I think it's like they were entities. They were not human.
Okay, because he was the only one that saw it.
He was out by himself.
It was hard to like quite follow that. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's a weird one. And then it wasn't just dirt that got thrown in his eyes. It was like some type of spiritual infection. Like she threw
some tiny little people.
Yeah, and they just like turned his eyeballs into like almost like plants are growing out of him.
It made me think of
figures crawling on his face and into his mouth.
That was especially like, okay, not to make it funny, but I was thinking of tiny little Oompa Loompas.
Oh, funny,
crawling down his throat into his body.
Oh my God, I have that fresh in my head because there was a description of somebody called a munchkin, a terrible person in a recent Timesuck. And it made me think of Oompa Loompa Doompa Dee Doo.
Yes.
And so I was playing that song, yes.
Oh, well, you're welcome for bringing it full circle. And also like the growing out of the eye made me think of The Last of Us, the like.
Yes.
So the visuals with this in my brain were incredible.
There's something about the story, like the rhythm in which it's told that I really liked. And I'm just like, ugh, just unsettling.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's something about like our eyes too that
They're
is
so sensitive.
Yeah, it's really unsettling because they're so sensitive. They're these delicate little parts of our body that are hardly protected by this very thin, delicate skin. I mean, when you really think about it.
They're so important. Whenever I see in like a movie people fighting and then one person digs their thumb in another person's eyes, I'm always like, no, my God.
You just know how bad that would hurt.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Would you want to, go blind, go deaf, lose your sense of taste?
Oh, out of those three, lose my sense of taste.
Okay. Blind or deaf?
I go back and forth, actually, because we were talking the other day how much I like music.
Yeah.
As much as I love to see, I think I would pick sight.
You would lose your sight.
I would lose my sight. I think I'd pick like still being able to hear music.
Yeah. I would absolutely choose to continue to be able to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Not being able to see would be incredibly challenging because you're so dependent on others at that point.
Yeah.
But I think it would make, I believe, with no experience of ever having like lost my vision or, I've never had like an eye surgery where I couldn't open my, I have no experience being blind or deaf in any capacity, but I believe that I also would prefer to lose my sight at this point in my life because I've seen a lot. So I have a good data bank.
Yeah.
Of like what things look like, descriptors, but to go deaf, I mean, I think it would make me go mad.
Yeah. Oof.
But some people live that way and like
totally, and they adapt. We're such an adaptable species. I'm constantly impressed by stories of people who are like, I thought this would have broken me.
Yeah.
And actually I found myself in this new life. Yeah. No pictures obviously like come with this ancient story from this.
You don't say.
But I found two attached to a post of one telling it on this snowpavilion.co.uk, which has a bunch of like Chinese kind of legends and stuff on it. And here is one.
Oh.
Somebody's imagining of this.
Okay.
And here is the other.
Yeah, that's like more of like what I was kind of envisioning.
I think this is like at first what was happening to him, and then this is where it went.
And and he had two pupils at the end? That would be I've never seen anybody.
Well, I don't think I don't know actually. I don't know that you would be able to have two active pupils because they're like the lens of the camera of your eye.
Totally.
And to have two in one, I don't know if that's a thing.
I wonder if that's like a birth defect that can happen. And like maybe only one of them works, so to speak. But
yeah, who knows?
Fascinating. The eye dwellers.
It's a fascinating little story. Are you ready to leave China now and head to England?
Sure am.
Okay, now let's talk about another haunted doll. These stories are some of my favorites because a good spooky doll story really makes my skin crawl. And they're hard to find. This story is not about some old porcelain doll or some Raggedy Ann type thing. It's about a puppet. And puppets might actually be the creepiest of all the dolls. A doll that just sits there and stares at you with these unsettling glassy little eyes. Sure, that's not fun. But a puppet, that's an object that's meant to come alive. Meant to move, meant to speak with a human's voice. So they already seem a little bit alive. A little more likely maybe to suddenly develop a mind of their own. A bit of a, haunted, supernatural ticking time bomb in that way. The story comes our way from Britain's foremost haunted doll investigator, Jane Harris. A trained psychologist, she runs HD Paranormal Research, a paranormal investigation team and online course provider known for detailed and methodical investigations and training, or at least she did run that. I think it's still active, covering topics such as understanding spirit attachment and possession. Jane spent many years examining all sorts of different dolls, puppets, and toys said to carry spirits. Her reputation seems to be pretty solid. She doesn't claim to be a psychic, doesn't appear to embellish wild stories. She emphasizes evidence, testing, ruling out natural explanations first. And in this case, Jane herself has said she found some of the most chilling and unexplainable evidence she's ever encountered. But our story begins not with Jane, but with a man identified only as John. In the 1960s, John is said to have inherited a marionette-style puppet that belonged to his dad after his father passed away, this doll he would give to Jane. And time now for the tale of the unnamed doll. This puppet had been in his father's home for years. John remembered seeing it hanging in the spare room, suspended on a crossbar with its little limbs dangling down. He's admitted he has never liked it. In fact, he always felt a sort of repulsion towards the thing, like there was something ugly about it that went well beyond its appearance. Guests to his father's house often felt the same. They would ask not to sleep in the spare room, or if they had to, they would complain of bad dreams, and a weird atmosphere. But John's father, oddly enough, seemed to really like the puppet. And John never understood why. It was one of his dad's favorite trinkets, a little keepsake he would never let go of, despite how it made everybody else feel. Also, John's dad never said where this thing came from, not that John ever asked. John's father had been the kind of man who loved to browse antique shops, junk stalls, estate sales. Perhaps it had come from one of those. Probably. Wherever it came from, John was certain that it was very old, with its worn, painted face and its thin and wiry hair, like real human strands that had been glued in place decades ago. Its clothes were tattered but curiously well-fitted, like they had been sewn specifically for it. When his father died, John did not want the puppet. His gut told him to toss it out into a trash bin, but guilt and sentimentality led to him keeping it anyway. It had been his dad's favorite after all. He soon regretted not following his initial impulse. At first, nothing dramatic happened, but within a few short weeks, John started to notice changes. It began with his health. Headaches that came out of nowhere, dizzy spells that left him gripping the edge of a counter. His wife teased him about being stressed, maybe drinking too much coffee, but he didn't feel more stressed out than normal, and he wasn't drinking any more coffee than normal, so that wasn't it. And then the nightmares began. Incredibly vivid nightmares John kept waking up from, night after night. Always the same dream. He'd see an old man, thin, balding, and gray with sunken eyes. Sometimes the man would sit on the edge of his bed, silent, just staring at him. Other times the figure would actually lean over his chest, grab him by the shoulders, and press him down into the mattress. And then sometimes, the worst times, the old man would wrap his hands around John's throat and squeeze, while he glared hatefully into John's eyes. John would jolt awake, gasping for air, his pulse hammering. And now his wife no longer teased him about being stressed or drinking too much caffeine. Now she grew concerned. And then she became terrified when she began to have nightmares of her own, nightmares almost identical to her husband's. And then soon came the night when their dreams crossed over into waking reality. One night, John decided to leave the puppet sitting on the dresser beside their bed. Why would he do such a thing? Because he wanted to face his fears. He told himself it was ridiculous to be so afraid of a toy, that by keeping it close, he could prove to himself that everything that had happened was all in his mind, that the doll itself was actually completely harmless. But then in the middle of the night, he awoke from yet another nightmare, only to face something worse, a shadow moving past his window. He blinked hard, tried to tell himself it had actually been headlights from a passing car. But there were almost never cars shining their headlights through that particular window. Their house was set back a ways from the road, and the only time headlights would be able to shine into his bedroom would be when someone was pulling into their driveway. He sat up, peeked out the window, and that was currently not the case. He laid back down in bed, and then his throat seized up. John later described it saying, "It felt like someone's hands were around my throat. I couldn't breathe. I've never been strangled before, never had that kind of pressure, and it was terrifying." He tried to call out, but no sound would leave his mouth. His wife stirred beside him, but she was slow to wake. He thrashed about, clawing at his own neck, tears springing to his eyes as he fought for air. Finally, his wife awoke, turned to him horrified as he rolled onto his side, gasping, and then he saw it, the puppet, sitting on the dresser, not quite in the same spot where he remembered placing it, its painted eyes catching some faint light from the window and staring directly at him. John said he now knew. He said in that moment he was certain beyond logic or doubt, that the puppet was the one somehow attacking him in the night and filling he and his wife's heads with nightmares. Desperate for both understanding and help, John contacted a variety of self-proclaimed paranormal experts, including Jane Harris, and she agreed to investigate. When Jane entered John's home, she immediately felt the oppressive dread he had told her about. She later said the puppet radiated a dark energy unlike anything else she had ever studied. She pulled out her EMF meter, a common tool for ghost hunters used for detecting electromagnetic fluctuations, often associated with paranormal activity. And as soon as John placed the puppet in her hands, the meter lit up, beeping, flashing, spiking with invisible energy. Jane agreed to take the puppet away to study it, and John and his wife felt nothing but relief. They said their home felt lighter almost immediately. And since the doll has been gone, so have their nightmares. Meanwhile, Jane's work was just beginning. Jane sealed the puppet in a specially built glass case, blessed, salted, reinforced with various materials designed to prevent the energy of the doll and whatever might be attached to it, and the physical body of the doll itself from ever getting out. Cameras and motion sensors were set up around it. Jane later said that she didn't really expect anything extraordinary to happen, that most cases she had studied ended up having logical explanations, and that even dolls or other items she was sure had some sort of paranormal energy attached to them usually grew quiet, once contained in something like the case she had built for it. But not this one. For months, she heard strange, deliberate knocking sounds coming from all around her home. Most but not all of the sounds seemed to come from the doll or somewhere near it. She also continually reviewed surveillance footage of the doll, and finally in July of 2015, she said she saw something that made her blood run cold. On camera, the puppet moved on its own. The footage shows the puppet's wooden ventriloquist control cross. Slowly, impossibly, begins to tilt upward. No breeze, no vibration, just this steady, deliberate motion as though invisible hands are tugging on the strings. Jane recalled, "Normally you expect to see an orb or a shadow, but this was different. As soon as I saw the movement, the glint of the metal hooks and the light, it made me jump. I knew we'd recorded something important." The cross then lurched violently, slamming against the glass with a sharp crack. When Jane replayed the footage, she felt a chill race down her spine. She'd caught mist, orbs, shadows before, but never anything this physical, this real, and it terrified her. Jane consulted a medium who told her the entity attached to the puppet was an elderly man, a cruel, mocking presence. He laughed at their attempts to contain him. The glass box, the medium said, means nothing. The container is physical, but he is not. He can pass in and out as he pleases. Jane believed her because the bumps and knocks she had been hearing didn't always come from anywhere near the case. They sometimes came from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, all around the house. The puppet wasn't trapped. It was only choosing when to show itself. As news of this supposedly haunted puppet spread, others soon claimed to also feel its effects. A young woman soon visited Jane's collection of haunted objects, including this still unnamed doll. She said as she stood near its case, she started to feel lightheaded, like the air around her had become too thin. Then when she looked down at the doll, she swore the puppet's head turned slightly, its eyes angled directly at her. She staggered back, convinced she had seen this shift. Then she went outside to get some fresh air, where she was able to breathe normally again. And then, not wanting to approach the doll again, she went home. That night, she said she dreamt of an old man sitting at the foot of her bed, whispering in her ear. And then when she woke up, her throat was sore, as though she had been choking. Finally, most disturbingly, some people who have watched the video footage online of this doll have reported having strange and terrible dreams in the nights that have followed, including nightmares of suffocation. A few have claimed that they've woken up to the sensation of hands pressing against their throats. And Jane herself has admitted that the puppet has affected her personally, that she sometimes hears a faint scratching against the glass of its container at night, or that she occasionally has found the puppet's position definitely different than before, even when the cameras have shown no movement. She says she has learned to live with it, and that someday she hopes to understand more about the spirit of the old man that seems to still be attached to it. Today, the puppet remains with Jane, still sealed in its container, still under surveillance, and numerous researchers continue to study it. What will they eventually discover? Is the ghost of a once living man attached to this puppet, or is it something else? Is the entity actually confined to the puppet, or is it free to roam, coming and going as it pleases, with the puppet being nothing more than a perch of sorts that it uses when it wants to be seen?
What did you just do to the music?
I didn't even know I could do that. I accidentally hit both ender sounders.
Oh my God.
It freaked me out.
It freaked me out. But then you looked at me and I was like, wait, is he trying to do this on purpose? I thought I was like losing my mind. I had such a funny, I was going to be like, you know what Jane's going to discover? Jane's going to discover, get the fuck out, Jane. But I was too scared by the music.
I know, it freaked me out because I didn't know I did it at first. I didn't know I also hit your ender button and the little pad in front of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you could hit two simultaneously and have them both activate.
My God.
That was really weird.
That was very unsettling.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that mistake in there.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Okay, now listen, I'm nervous to even look at this based on how parts of that story go at the end, where like people who've even just viewed the video online then proceed to have nightmares.
We'll be looking at pics, not the video.
I know, but still. I'm a sensitive little soul.
Yeah.
I am struggling.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned about my mental health right now.
Okay.
So get ready to not sleep tonight.
Okay. So this pic and all the others I'm going to show come from dailymail.co.uk, a publication over there. So here's just a photo of the, oh my gosh, a photo of the doll.
Yeah.
Little ventriloquist doll. You can see the little ventriloquist control cross below it.
I instantly have chills. It is a creepy doll.
Mm-hmm. This next one, this is Jane just next to its case to show perspective, show its size.
Why does Jane look like my mom in the 70s?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen young pictures of St. Joan? It's like, that's a doppelganger.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wild.
Which means I feel like I'm looking at myself because I look so much like my mother.
And then this is a little series of pictures. So I'm just zooming in here. These are night vision. And you can see like right here, as I'm showing you, Lynze, that's the little ventriloquist cross.
Okay, so if you're looking at these on our social media or on Patreon, wherever you consume this, when you're looking at the photo in the back right corner, you can sort of see this like rod that is the ventriloquist control.
Mm-hmm. And then it kind of like, when you watch the video, it seemed to like almost tilt back towards the doll for a second, I think, when I watched the video. And then and then this next one just showing its movement. And then just like, on its own, it just starts to, but it's like really slowly go to the right and just fall over. So again, a series of pictures, doesn't look anything crazy. But when you watch the video, Jane has actually been around. She really has been in a variety of articles, been on shows and stuff for a number of years.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem like a sensationalist. She doesn't there's never like crazy videos. And either like this is somehow they had a string outside the box off camera and somebody is slowly pulling it and you can't see it. People will say on the comments underneath the video, it's like, yeah, it's just called gravity. But when you watch it, I'm like, it's a weird movement. And, and it's not big, but it did creep me out.
All right. Well, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't need to see that video.
Okay.
Okay, now when did you watch this video?
Today.
Okay, and that was the last time you watched it was today. So I guess tonight we'll see if you have any bad dreams.
Yeah, and I don't usually remember my dreams.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I do have little nightmares every once in a while.
Yeah, well, and you are a bit of a snorer. Mm-hmm. So even if you're getting like a little like choked in your sleep, like a dream of that, like a sound. Yeah. It's just going to be the same as what I always hear. So I won't be able to help you.
Oh, no. Okay.
I know. If you really need me, you're going to have to, I don't know, hit me or something.
Okay.
All right. Well, have you got a Layla?
Yes, I have Yellow Layla. And before you tell your stories.
Yes, I do have an announcement. Thank you for reminding me. So this month, we just wanted to make sure that we snuck in our charity announcement mid-show. And maybe you zoom past the announcements at the top of the show, which is completely fine.
Yeah,
we get it. But maybe you don't know that we donate to charities every month because you've been zipping through. So September, the charity this month is SCOPE, and that stands for Summer Camp Opportunities Promote Education. This incredible nonprofit provides children from under-resourced communities with access to life-changing overnight summer camp experiences by offering a pathway that leads from camp to the classroom to college and career. So this is a lifelong program. It's very, very cool. Neither Dan nor I had the opportunity to attend sleepaway camps when we were kids, and now having sent our own children when they were much younger to sleepaway camps, we immediately noted the growth and maturity that both of our children experienced during their short little camps. So it was really easy to support this. And then I was excited to work with Scope because I got to meet with their executive director, Molly, in order to make this happen. And Molly is just like us. She's like a gentle weirdo, super generous, a little bit dark, totally wrapped in sunshine. And we just firmly believe in what Molly's doing over at Scope. And then, so not only will we have the donation total, but I want to tell you guys that during summer camp just a few weeks ago, all of the tips given to the bartenders over the course of the weekend were collected and donated, 100% of them. And we totaled $2,970 worth of tips, plus our $12,225 for a total of $15,200 going to Scope.
Amazing.
Molly was blown away. I forget how many kids this will send to camp, but it's like, this is a very substantial donation for them. They're very excited. And then, of course, $1,350 will be set aside for our scholarship fund, for next year. But yeah, it's just an easy way also to remind you guys that summer camp tickets are on sale for next year. Get over there, get them, come have a life-changing experience with us.
Woohoo!
And now.
It's
time to get back to the spoops. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Well, then let's go. Hello, Dan and Lynze.
Hello.
The Queen and the King.
Hello.
I've decided to finally send in my story today. I'd written it earlier this year, but just never had the courage to share it until now. But as of today, 28th May 2025, both my parents are deceased as my mother passed away on Friday, 23 May 2025.
So sorry.
So sharing this is like keeping their memories alive. I also started listening to Scared to Death and then Timesuck nearly 3 years ago after the passing of my father and then when I received my own diagnosis of bowel cancer. I was going through chemo and could only sit and feel sorry for myself. I truly believe finding and listening to your podcast helped me stay sane in my own little world of fantasies, feeling the spooks and scares instead of feeling ill. And now I'm in remission.
Yes.
I honestly believe I owe that recovery in some part to the two of you. So thank you, King and Queen. And now here's my story. Growing up in the family home, it never truly felt like ours. It pulsed with something ancient, something watching. It was as if the very walls could breathe. And in that breath, whisper things no one dared to understand. Even as a child, I often felt like an intruder, like the house tolerated our presence but never welcomed it. The floorboards groaned under invisible footsteps, and shadows slithered just out of reach, mocking our innocence. I remember one storm-drenched Saturday night when I was about 15. The wind screamed outside like a wounded creature, hurling itself against the rattling window panes. Rain lashed at the glass like claws. I lay frozen in bed beneath my blankets, cocooned in fear. Sleep was impossible. Every howl of the wind, every creak in the walls made me sink deeper beneath the covers. I didn't move until morning. When the storm finally broke, I allowed myself to exhale and enjoy the quiet. But peace is a fragile thing. A deafening crash from the attic ripped through the silence, shaking the walls as though something monstrous had awakened above us. My heart clutched my chest. I bolted upright. My sister Angela did the same. Our eyes met, wide, terrified, and no words were needed. Something was there. Something had been stirred. We crept out of our beds and stepped onto the landing, each breath ragged, as if even our lungs feared being heard. We strained to catch the smallest sound, but all we heard was the thudding of our own hearts, echoing in the silence. Days passed, but the unease lingered like smoke. Then came the tapping, soft, deliberate, always from the same place. The corner of our bedroom, just beside the old built-in wardrobe, the one no one ever opened. The sound was steady and rhythmic, like a slow, mocking knock. My mother dismissed it, saying it was just our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rigsby, tapping her cane against the floor to get her husband's attention. She was bedbound, after all. But, even as we nodded, we didn't believe her. Not truly. My siblings and I would stand at the wardrobe, hands inches from the doors, daring each other to open it. But fear always won. What if something waited beyond those doors? In the living room, our mother's prized bird figurines lined the mantelpiece. Porcelain, pristine, unmoving. Or so we thought. Time and again, we'd return to the room and find them facing the wall, their delicate backs turned towards us. No one ever admitted to moving them. No one ever saw them turn. And yet, they always did. Then came a Wednesday when my mother was babysitting my 2-year-old nephew, Nathan. She sat folding newspapers for my younger brother's paper round. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a small figure, a toddler, sneak behind the armchair. Without looking up, she called out to Nathan, asking where he was off to. But then a noise came from the opposite side of the room. She turned, and there was Nathan, right where he'd been all along, playing quietly, unaware. She swore she'd seen a tiny hand disappear behind the chair. She told us later, her voice low, almost ashamed. But we all knew she had seen something. That evening, when our father returned from work, all 8 of us, including little Nathan in his high chair, gathered at the table. We talked nervously about the strange things that had happened. The banging, the tapping, the objects that moved, the ghost child behind the chair. Our father smiled, a smile that chilled more than reassured. He began to share his own stories of his childhood home. A home, he said, was featured in a book called The Most Haunted Houses in Northamptonshire. The air left the room. When we asked if he had heard anything strange growing up, he shrugged. Of course, he said casually, but I always assumed it was just the owls in the countryside. Scratching, wailing. He dismissed them like a bedtime story, but I was petrified. We all were. Deep down, we knew there was more, so much more that our parents never told us. Years passed, but the house remained restless. The taps never stopped. The birds still turned their backs. And we kept asking, was it haunted? Or were we just haunted by what we didn't want to see? Now we're all grown. Even Nathan, the toddler once spied as a ghostly double, is 31, engaged with children of his own. My father passed 3 years ago, taken by illness and complications from COVID. Our mother, her mind fading in a care home, no longer remembers the house that once terrified us. Now the home is ours to clear, ours to sell, ours to face. But the fear never left. Not long ago, Angela, her husband Paul, and I returned to clear the upstairs rooms. The house groaned around us, older now, but still breathing. We were sorting through boxes when footsteps echoed on the stairs, heavy, intentional. Angela and I froze, eyes locking in a silent recognition. We hadn't spoken, but we both knew that sound. We made Paul call out. No answer. The front door had been locked from the inside, the key still in place. No one could have entered. We made Paul go and check, so he descended alone, his footsteps slow, uncertain. He searched the house, room by room by room. The living room, the kitchen, the hall. Every door still locked, every window secure, no one there. When he came back up, we hadn't moved. We stayed in the bedroom, too afraid to follow. Paul's face was pale as he told us no one was there. And in that moment, with the house holding its breath around us, we finally told him the truth about the banging, the tapping, the things that moved, and the things that never left. Glenda.
Thank you, Glenda. That is a very unsettling rhythm.
I know. I don't know what it is. And also, Glenda seems like the sweetest person ever. So it's like it's this strange, for me, juxtaposition.
Well told story, Glenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so glad you're okay. So sorry about your parents. Man, they're just like, I've talked about this before, but it's probably been a while. But, we hear all these, horror stories. I'm coming up with my own horror stories now, like immersed in so much horror. There's so many different kinds of horror you can do.
Yeah.
And my favorite before all of this started is just the haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is.
Yeah.
And there is something about, something as simple as footsteps on the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
That is just, it's like a primal fear. There's just something about it that is, it induces such a feeling of anxiety and dread in me.
Yeah, I agree.
Just, I'm immediately able to put myself in this old house, and I'm, with Angela or whoever. I'm upstairs in one of these rooms. We're, tidying up some things, and I can just hear the creak. I can just hear the heavy footfall, the creak, of the groan of the wood, supporting the weight, and then the next one, and just that wonder of what the fuck is coming up the stairs, and just immediately scared.
100%.
I even think I had a random flash memory of I love to tease the dogs, especially Penny.
Yeah.
But Penny and Ginger, to play with them. And one of the things I really love to do to rile them up is to all of a sudden just stare at them from across the room and then just take very intentional, heavy footsteps towards them while raising my hands up and staring at them.
Yeah.
And they both just get so riled up.
Absolutely. It's scary.
But Penny, you can tell Penny has that playful thing of she's a little scared, but it's also a little fun. It's kind of exciting. But sometimes I would come up the stairs from where our bedroom is and just really intentionally with the kids too. The kids or the dogs, kids when they're littler, and just stomp. And even when people know you're joking around, it still immediately makes everyone uncomfortable.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Well, and then this story, Glenda sent over 2 pictures.
Yeah.
So I think for me as well, and of course these will be posted on our social media, on Patreon, and all the places. If you're listening on YouTube, they'll be inserted at this point. So these 2 photos, Glenda sent a handful, but I just chose these 2. These did me in. So this first one is the wardrobe that Glenda speaks about that they didn't use, that was built in, that the siblings dared each other to open.
No, thank you.
It's so effing creepy. Glenda, I'm sorry.
And it should be really cute. It's just one of those things where it's like, when it was first built, maybe cute.
Yeah.
And there's this wallpaper in the walls of the child's room, and it's all these little bears, like, cute little bears in various settings. They're like pushing a little baby cart and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the doors, one has a little painted bear, one has a little painted elephant on these. I don't know what you call those little like portions of the door when they're like it's like a rectangle inside a rectangle. There's a term for it.
I'm trying to think of it. It's like, it's not the frame, because the frame is, but it's like, yeah.
Yeah, there's like a term for it when you have like a decorative door.
It has like multiple panels. And
like a panel. Like, I guess it would just be like these lower panel. The upper panels are glass, like a stained glass, not stained glass. Tempered glass?
It could be tempered, or it's like frosted glass.
Frosted. Yeah, like frost. There you go.
Guys, it's 9:00 at night.
I know.
We've been up early.
I'm never good with like
our
architectural
brains
terms.
are struggling.
So frosted glass, upper panel, lower panel, just wood with a little painted image. And it's something about like,
and then sorry, just above the two main doors.
Yeah.
Then up above it are two narrow cabinet doors. Think like the kind of doors that are above a refrigerator.
Yes.
It's like exactly that. Like, it's almost like a filler space between like the header and the door.
Yes, great description. And it's all built into the wall. And I don't know what it is, like the lighting.
I hate it.
Or something. But yeah, as I stare at this, I'm like waiting for just some fucking monster. Like in a horror movie, you would be like, oh my God, yes.
In a horror movie, the kids are playing a game with the doors and they open it and nothing comes out, but then the top two pop open and something comes out from the top.
If you're like somebody like designing sets for a horror movie and you show this to the director's like, oh my God, you crushed it.
Totally.
Like, yes.
Totally. And then photo 2 is just the porcelain birds that she was talking about that constantly were turned around. Now, when I was first reading the story before looking at the photo, I presumed that they would be small figurines, like, 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah.
These things are probably, I don't know, 12 inches tall?
Yeah, I would say so. Like 12, 14, 16 inches tall, in that range.
Yeah, there's like an owl and then 2 maybe like sparrows. And so for them...
Some hawks, yeah.
Or hawks, I'm sorry, yeah. And for them to move... It wouldn't be like, it's not the kind of figurine where like heavy footsteps would kind of rattle it and shift it.
Yeah.
They're substantial.
Totally.
So for them to be moved into different directions would be incredibly unsettling. And then the freaking eyes on that owl, it just feels like he's staring at you.
This photo overall, not as creepy to me.
No.
It's a beautiful fireplace.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the
so sweet.
I don't know my terms for like what era of decor this is, like from like the 30s or 40s, but whatever it is, it's cool as hell.
Yeah, just they did the mason work is really beautiful. Yeah.
Oh man.
So great story, Glenda. Thank you so much for sharing. So sorry about your parents, and thank you for the honor and the privilege of being with you in your
on the journey.
Yeah, in your hardest times, and we're so glad that you're still with us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now for one more. And now. All right, let's do it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to start by saying I love your podcast.
Thanks.
I found it on Pandora and have been listening ever since regularly.
God, I got to do those Pandora ads again.
Pandora loves you. I want to start by saying before this happened, I had never been a firm believer in paranormal phenomenon. In 2020, I started having a repeating dream about a pale white woman with pitch black hair that went down to her thighs. Her skin was flawless, and although I couldn't make out her face, in every dream I remember saying, "Wow, she's beautiful." She wore a long white dress that had mud stains on it. The dream would start out differently every night, but when she appeared, it always morphed into the same scene. A woman crawling out of reeds on a riverbed. I was standing on one side of the river and she was on the opposite, crawling in the reeds. Her hair perfectly straight, not a strand out of place, and her skin wasn't dirty. She didn't have any cuts or blemishes, but her dress was always covered in mud streaks. I had this same dream every night for weeks. Eventually in the dream, she climbed out of the reeds and began making her way across the river. One morning, I was getting into my car on my way to work when I noticed the figure of a woman in white standing across the street in my peripheral. I live on a private road where there aren't many houses, and most of the houses are summer homes. This happened in the fall. It was right after most of the neighbors had packed up and left for the season. Since it was so early in the morning, I got in the car and locked the door. When I turned and looked for the woman I thought I had seen, there was nothing. I started noticing this woman more and more in my real life. I'd see her in a crowd standing a few yards away. When I was driving, I'd see her standing on the side of the road as I drove past, though when I'd look in the mirror, she'd be gone. This continued for months. I started losing sleep. I was anxious, and I decided to tell my family. I didn't understand why this woman was haunting me. My family thought I should see someone about it. They said I was stressed about something, that I needed to relax, to stop thinking about it altogether. The more I ignored this woman, the closer she got to me. I started thinking maybe I was actually going insane. I'd pull over and start sobbing when I'd see her. I couldn't sleep for more than an hour or two each night. I was at my breaking point. One day, when I was leaving my aunt's house around midnight, I was looking for my car keys, looking into my purse to find my keys, when I saw pale, muddy feet appear beside me. She had never been this close to me. Every time I'd seen her before, it was at a distance. Chills instantly covered my body, but interestingly, I didn't feel threatened, just startled. I looked up into the reflection in my car window and saw the pale woman from my dreams. The beautiful, faceless woman with long black hair in her white, muddy dress. I whirled around and screamed, "What do you want from me?" But she vanished. I did not see her on the drive home or in my dreams that night. I had a full night's rest, and I woke up feeling great. I went to work and had been scanning, stapling, and filing paperwork in my office. And then I saw her in the reflection on my computer screen, standing in the corner of my office behind me. I turned to face her only for her to lunge at my face and release the loudest ear-piercing screech I have ever heard in my life. My ears were ringing as I fell out of my chair and threw the handheld stapler at this woman. But she vanished once again. The stapler hit the wall and my coworkers came rushing in. Too embarrassed and shaken up to tell the truth, I told them I fell. I thought I had officially lost my mind. My personal cell phone started ringing when everyone had left my office. I answered the call. My mother told me my father was on the way to the hospital because he thought he was having a heart attack. He had what the doctors called a widowmaker heart attack. He had to have a pacemaker put in, and while only 20% of his heart is still functioning, he's still alive today. To top it all off, when my dad was released from the hospital, my grandmother, who lives in Pennsylvania, called and said her second husband had died unexpectedly. And I never saw the woman again. But after doing research, the only description that seems to come close to what I've witnessed is the Irish banshee. Supposedly, she is a woman described as having either long black or long white hair, a black or white dress, and does not speak at all. She only screams. It's believed to be the spirit of a woman who was brutally murdered that wanders the earth, warning people of death in their families. I never felt threatened by her. I only wanted to know why she wouldn't leave me alone for months. I do believe she was a wandering soul, warning me about my father's heart attack and maybe warning me about my grandfather's death as well. After this experience, I am a firm believer in the paranormal. Thank you for taking the time to read about my experience. It's so good to know that not all hauntings are evil. Take care and stay safe, Kendra.
Thank you, Kendra. Yeah, Irish, I didn't go to Irish Banshee, but that would make sense. It's interesting. We've talked about this actually before several times here, where there is just that archetype out there in the paranormal world. It goes across cultures, across the world, of specifically a pale white woman, long dark hair, white dress.
Yes.
And it's like that images of that woman, sightings of that very specific apparition have come from, Latin America, have come from Asia, from Europe, from America, just like all over the place. And for hundreds and hundreds of years, it's really strange.
It's really strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's all kinds of lore behind it. Usually like a woman wronged, a woman who's been hurt, often near bodies of water, often near lakes, rivers. A woman who lost her child and is looking for her child in the afterlife, a woman grieving something. I mean, I guess, women have been wronged in such a variety of ways for so long.
Forever.
That I'm not surprised. But it's just
and it
crazy
just keeps
that
going.
Yeah, that one just keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let me tell you, if I'm wronged and it takes me out, I will fucking haunt the shit out of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Do it. Haunt. I was also thinking during that story that like I've never had a recurring nightmare like that where like people talk for months. When I was a kid, the closest one I had a few dreams of drowning that stuck with me that were very like vivid.
Yeah.
Just several. And then, for a few weeks, these nightmares of clowns and things, which, stuck with me. But I've never had, as an adult, had that. And I've never had like months of over and over and over the same entity showing up in my dream.
Yeah.
And that would fucking make me feel so crazy. I would start to really freak out. And I'd be afraid to go to sleep. And then if I started seeing that same thing during my waking hours,
oh my gosh,
like Kendra talks about.
That's what did me over.
Oh.
What'd you call her?
Did I say Kendra?
Oh, I thought you said Kennedy. No, it is
yeah,
Kendra. You're right.
Yeah.
I just heard Kennedy in my head.
No.
Sorry.
And that would make me, I personally would immediately start to think that like, oh man, I've taken too many psychedelics. I unlocked some part of my brain that I would like to lock back up.
I don't think that's real.
I don't think so either. But but I would at least wonder, I'm like, oof, is there something to those rumors?
Fair enough. Well, would you like to do some Annabelle shout-outs?
I would. Thank you for those stories. Those were great.
Yes, and also on the Annabelle shout-outs, just a quick note, just a reminder that, if you've been signed up for a little while and you haven't heard your name, or if you were a Robert and you upgraded to an Annabelle, something about that system internally on Patreon, it doesn't properly move you into the right category when I am filtering. So please, if you haven't heard your name and you're bummed out or you're frustrated, email us at info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. I will get back to you. I will get you on the schedule. We are not ignoring you. We are eternally grateful for your support. And we really want to give you what you've paid for.
Yeah, absolutely. Lynze takes this very seriously looking for all this. I mean, I'm also taking it seriously, but Lynze's the one who does it.
I'm the caretaker.
Yeah,
I can't help myself.
Yep.
For better or worse. All right. Well, big thank you to these fans who made this month's donation to Scope possible. Celestia Storm, Pimp Daddy Maddie.
Hell yeah.
Angel Rise, or Reese, The Archive Guy, Roland, Sam Simmons, Brianna LaRose, Stephanie, Sarah Davis, Danielle Gura, and just Danielle. I mean, Danielle, but just.
Totally.
Yeah, I wanted to make that clear with distinction.
And I would like to thank the following Annabelles: Michelle Green, Ricky Sibbett, Tina Shirley, Ashby, Jay Katz, Christiana Ronshagen, Emmanuel Diaz, Cypress, Grimgrave, Samantha Jade, and Kai Piley.
Nice. All right, guys.
Or Kai Pilly.
Fair enough. Guys, I have a big chunk of spoopy shout-outs this week. And, I'm just taking a little bit more right now. I think we need a little extra care and love and light right now. So squeezing in a few extra this week. To John, the nerdy Viking, and Googly Bear. From Amanda, the yarn hoarding pain in the ass, and Smoopsy Poo. Happy 22nd anniversary. You're everything I could have asked for, proving that, quote, in sickness and in health part of our vows. You're a wonderful father to our heathens. I love you with my whole heart, infinity +1. To Godzilla from Chesh, like Cheshire, Chesh. Yeah. Happy birthday to my favorite creeper, not peeper sibling. You've been my favorite since the day you were born. I'm happy to have watched you grow into an obnoxious, annoying pain in the ass whom I love dearly, which, ew, gross, I know. But keep being you unapologetically. To Emily from Ty, happy belated birthday. Thanks for being a friend. To Beansprout, a.k.a. Godmom, Aunt Quesadilla. But like Kase, Adia,
okay.
Quesadilla, from Tits Magood and the Tato. Happy birthday to our truest friend. Your kindness and strength shine despite the challenges life throws your way. Thank you for being the best friend and best godmom. We are endlessly grateful for you. Here's to another 20 years of amazing and unforgettable memories. To Hamsika from Hamsika, I know it seems everything is annoying and hard to deal with, and nothing seems to be going right. But you are doing your best. Keep your head up and keep fighting. It's worth it. Hamsika and I emailed back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
They recently moved to Korea for grad school, and it's just a very challenging transition.
Okay.
So keep going, friend. Keep going. To Darren, from Darren, unhappy 50th birthday to me because no one in my life is cool enough to listen to the show and give me a shout out. And last one, to Cordy Court from Big B in Iran. You are one of the oldest and most beautiful souls we know. May the next 30 years be even better. We fucking love you, bitch.
Ah, I love it. I love Tits McGood.
Yeah.
That's like a Tits McGee, and then there's Tits McGood,
Yeah.
which is like a saintly, heavily bosomed person.
Okay, you're a saintly, big-boobed babe.
That's our show. Thanks for continuing to send in your personal tales of terror to mystory@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. You can email us for everything else, info@scaredtodeathpodcast.com. Thank you to Logan Keith, as always, scoring these shows. Thanks to Heather Rylander, organizing the My Story email. She's been with us for so long. To book editor Drew Atana, also been with us for so long, polishing and preparing listener stories for book number 7.
Dang.
Thank you to Molly Box. She's been with us a couple years now, finding the first story I shared. And to Olivia Lee, been with us for 6 or 7 years, finding the second. We're on Facebook and Instagram, where we post pics that accompany episodes and more at Scared to Death Podcast. We have a private Facebook group, Creeps and Peepers, full of fellow horror lovers. Big thanks to the All-Seen Eyes, who moderate the Creeps and Peepers, who continue to make our online community such a great place. Enjoy your nightmares, Creeps and Peepers. Hope you were scared to death.
Bye.
If spirits threaten me in this place, fight water by water and fire by fire. Banish their souls into nothingness and remove their powers until the last trace. Let these evil beings flee through time and space. Evil may pass through, but hath no home here within, scared to death.
Mad Magic Productions.
I'm good.
Okay.
I don't need to see that video.